Welcome back, guys. Hope you're all doing great. And today in this course, we are going to learn how to authenticate the user by using Google authentication provided by the Firebase. And we are going to validate that JWT token provided by the Firebase, and we are going to validate that token by using our own Express endpoints, and we are going to create the Express app to validate that JWT token. And once the user is validated, and we are going to save that user in the MongoDB. So we are going to use the MongoDB for our data storage. Okay, so what exactly we are going to do here is we are creating a front-end app which is looks like this. Once the user logged in, it will provide the refresh token, and that refresh token will be passed to our backend server, which is created in the Node.js using Express app, and we are validating it. If the user is validated, that means if the refresh token is validated and we are trying to match with our MongoDB database, if the user is already exist, then we are just updating their authentication time. If the user is not exist, then we are creating that new user in our MongoDB database. So by this way you can validate the user information, and you can keep your sensible user information with your own side, with your backend server, instead of saving it in the local storage. Okay, and this will helps us to maintain the session management. We are also managing the session by using the Firebase on auth state changed, so we are validating the session of the users. Okay, so this is what we are going to learn, and much more briefly. So watch this video till without skipping, and learn how to authenticate the JWT token provided by the Firebase. And now, without wasting your time, let's get started. Okay, then all we have to create a new folder over here. So let's create a new folder. So let me create a new folder in my desktop, and I'll name it as Firebase. Uh, we are going to validate the Firebase refresh token only. So let me open this project in the Visual Studio Code editor, VS Code, where it is open with code. Okay, so now this will open my Visual Studio Code. I think it's taking more than a while. Yeah, it's opened. So all we have to do inside this, we need to create two main folders. One is for our client and another one is for our server. So let's create a two main folder inside this our file structure. So I don't know why my PC is too slow, but my PC is too slow today. Okay, so now it's ready. Cool. So let's create a new folder over here called client. That is for our front end, and let's create a new folder called server for our backend. Okay, inside this client we are going to create all the React components and React codes and everything, boilerplate codes and everything. And here we are going to initialize our node endpoints, our node server. So let's open up our terminal. So open it, press Ctrl J to open it. Okay, and let me clear the screen, and now we are moving into the client, the CD client. Okay, so that will takes us to the client folder. Make sure that you are inside the client folder. So I'm using the yarn to create the project. If you're using npm, just write the npm commands over there. So yarn create react app dot slash. Okay, inside this client folder only we are going to create all our React boilerplate codes and everything. So I'm just going to use dot slash alone. So if I press enter, this will start create the React application. Okay, so this might take a while, so sit tight until it's get completed. Okay, then so now my project is successfully created. So now what I need to do is I need to add some packages, whatever the packages we needed for this yarn. So you can see here our project is successfully created, and as usual we are going to remove this source folder, and we are going to clean it up, and we are going to load our custom files, everything inside it. Okay, so let's add a few files first. So I'm going to add wait a second, let me check what are the packages we need to add. So we need to add the packages like Firebase React icons, and because we are using the Firebase to get the refresh token for we are using the Google authentication. So let's add Firebase, and we need the Axios. So we are using the Axios to access our own endpoints from which we are creating by our Node server. So that's why Axios is to yeah, it's used to access the endpoints. Then I think these two packages are more enough for right now. So let me install it. So it's showing. Oh, my bad. So you need to add the command like yarn add. I missed the add. So in case if you're using npm, you should run npm install. Okay, so yarn add Firebase and Axios. These two packages will get installed. In the meanwhile, let's open our Firebase. So go to your Firebase, firebase.com, google.com. Go there and create your new project. So let's go to the console, opening it. So I'm going to create a new project over here and let me create it as Firebase. Okay, because we are using the Firebase token. Then I confirm that will I use Firebase exclusive for purpose living or for profession. Okay, so disable it and create the project. So this will create the project, our new Firebase project, and let's have a look over here, and still it's installing those packages. Okay, so I think I'm showing there appears to be trouble with your network connection. Retrying. Okay, so I think this might take a while. So I will join you once it's completed. Okay then, so finally it's get added, but I don't know why it's not installing much faster because I'm having some network issues. Okay, finally it's done. So next what we need to do is I'm just going to clean up the source folder over here. We are going to clean the source folder and we are going to add our own files. So what you need to do is just delete this file, delete this folder, right click and delete it. Okay, so now inside this I'm going to create a new folder. So right click your client folder and create a new folder called source. So inside this source I'm just going to create two more folders because we need to use them later. So I'm going to create two more folders called config and one more folder called API. These are the two folders, and inside the source folder I'm going to create one more file called index.js. okay, and one more file index.css and one more file called .js. okay, this is our main component which we are going to wrap it inside our index.js, and later all the sub components, everything will become under the folder called components. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the index.js file first. Okay, so let's import React. Oops. Import React from React. Then import React DOM from React DOM. Then we need to import our index.js file /index.css. Then we need to import our custom app. So we import app from /app. Okay, so now we need to render our component in our React DOM. So React DOM dot render. We are using the render method to render it. Okay, so we need to render it by using the strict mode. So I'm just going to say React dot strict mode. Inside this I'm going to render our app. So actually where this app is going to mounted, this app is going to mounted in our index.html inside this div route, inside this division. So what we need to do is after this strict mode, so we are going to say document dot get by id, and we are going to say that root. So mount this component inside this division. So now our index.js is pretty much done. Index.js, there is nothing else over here, and in the app.js I'm just going to say RAFCE. So RAFCE is nothing but it's a React snippet. So you can install this React snippet over here from the extension. If you search for ES7 React Redux snippets, you can install this extension. This will help you to run your React code much faster, write your React code much faster. Okay, So now it's pretty much done, and let's fire it up whether it is working fine or not. So let's say yawn start. Okay, so it's starting the React scripts. It's taking a while, and then the meanwhile, we already created the Firebase project. It's already done. So let's go here, continue. And what we need to do is we need to create a web app. Okay, so we need to create a web app over here. You can see this web app. So click this web and create a web app. So that will gives us the credentials and everything. If you're going to use the storages and databases and everything, so please go ahead and enable the storages and database, and then come here and create the app. So I'm just going to say Firebase token itself, that's the same name. Register the app. So this will register an application, and you need to install the Firebase in your project. So we already done that, and this is our configuration. So let's go back to click continue to console. So our app is created. Go to the project settings over here so that you can see your that Firebase config settings over here. Okay, so everything is pretty much done. So we just need to use this, and our app is that's also get triggered, and it's running up and running fine. So let me bring it side by side, our VS Code and this one. Okay, so now you can see the both applications in the side by side. Okay, so later we will change it. So our client work is so far done. So what we have to do is we need to get the refresh token from the user login. Once the user is successfully logged in, Firebase throws the Google provides you the refresh token of that signed user. So we are going to use that refresh token to validate the user and along to maintain the user sessions, everything. Okay, so what we need to do is inside the app.js, I'm going to create just a very simple code. I'm just going to create a login button and what to do initially, because I want to show you how to validate with our custom endpoint. Okay, so here I'm going to create just a state to monitor. So what I'm going to say is use state snippet set auth. Initially the set auth is going to be false. Okay, initially the set auth is going to be false. So once the user is authenticated, we'll change this to as a true. Okay, because we are not supposed to store the user information, user sensible information, or refresh token, anything related to user information in their local storage. Yeah, because that's vulnerable, so we should not store the user information in our local storage. Okay, so what we need to do is here, if the user is authenticated, just to show what we want to do here, if auth, that means if that is true, if that state is true, then just display something like to do. What we want to do here, we just to do. Otherwise, if the user is not authenticated, just display this button, then display this button and then show the button is login. Okay, save the changes. So now its auth is false, so it's displaying this button over here. You can see that it's displaying the button over here. Okay, so this is working pretty much done. So what I'm going to do is we need to get that Firebase configuration, and we need to create the Firebase config first. So inside this config folder, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the Firebase configurations. Okay, so inside this config folder, right click, new file called firebase.config.js. Okay, here we are going to copy that over here. So we need this one. Okay, later we will change this to our environment variable, but for the time being I'm just going to keep it inside this. But initially you should push all the sensitive informations into your environment variables. You should not keep it publicly, because otherwise when you are uploading your projects to the GitHub, GitHub will not allow you to upload these informations along with the API keys and everything. Okay, so we should protect that information. So here I'm just going to paste it. Okay, so I need to import two different few important packages. So let's import it. Import from Firebase /app. because we initially added the Firebase package in our project. Okay, so from the app, I'm going to import two methods: get app and get apps. Along with that, initialize app. So these are the methods we are going to use to initialize our own app. Okay, import. In case if you are using Firebase storage or Firestore, you need to import everything. So for instance, Firebase slash storage. If you are using Firebase storage, you need to import the method called get storage. In the same way, if you are using Firebase storage, sorry, Firestore, then Firebase slash Firestore, and then use the method called get Firestore. Anyway, I'm not going to use this, but I want to say this how to import it. So let me hide it. This is not necessary. If you want, you can use it. Okay. Now, after this, what I need to do is I'm not supposed to initialize every single time, because if the project is initialized already, we need to load it. Unless or until the project is not initialized only, we need to create a new project, new app for our Firebase. So what I'm going to do is const app equals, by using the get apps, okay, we'll get the complete app's length. So get the length. If the app length is greater than 0, that means there is an app, so load that app by using get app. If the get app's length is greater than 0, that means there is an application which is already created. If that is so, then create a new app. If it is not, then initialize a new app. So this is the perfect method to initialize your app. Okay, so this will initialize the app. Cool. And then let me, okay, so next what we need to do is after here, so let me expand it a little bit so that you can see it clearly. Okay, so now we need to export our app. So in case if you are using storage equals get storage. Okay, I think I commented it. So if you are using the get storage, okay, so get storage, you need to supply your app inside here. So that will get the storage and will store it over here. The same way you need to do for Firestore also. Firestore is equals get Firestore. Okay, so better keep it as a DB database. That's fine. So now you loaded your storage and your Firestore. So this is, you can use it for your project in case if you want to use it. But in this case, I'm not going to use it. So let me comment it and I'm going to export it, our app. If you want to export your storage and everything, just add comma storage, comma DB. You can export those applications. Okay, so now our app is done. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to get authenticated. On the user clicks this button, we need to authenticate and we need to get that refresh token first. So let's go back to the app.js and I'm going to create a new event over here called click, and let's say login with Google. Okay, this is a method we are going to create, and inside this app I'm going to create an arrow6 function equals enter and save the changes. And inside this arrow6 function we are going to write some custom codes to get the user authenticated informations. Okay, so first what we need to do is we need to have the authentication. If you are not sure about the Firebase authentication, what you need to do is, so I'll go to here and click the go to docs option and search for sign in with Google. Okay, so mostly use the, if you're not sure about the technologies what you're working, mostly use their documentation and learn and go through it to learn completely. So we are going to use this Google Auth provider. We need to import it in this way. Then we need to get the auth information, authenticated information. We need to load it in this way, and we are going to use sign in with pop-up method, and we need to supply our authentication object and the provider object just like this. Load it and get it, and you need to supply it like this. Okay, so go through it, take your time and go through that informations and everything, and let me jump into our work now. Okay, so what I need to do first, I need to get the authentication from our Firebase. To get that, you need to import quite a few packages from Firebase. Let's import it. Import from Firebase, everything is coming from auth package only. So Firebase auth. What are the things we need? We need to get the authentication information. So get auth. Then we are going to use the Google authentication provider. So Google auth provider. Then we are going to use sign in with pop-up. Sign in with pop-up. Okay, so we are going to use these things to to sign in the user inside our application. These are the required packages. Okay, then what we need to do is let's move into our app component. First I need to get the Firebase authentication. So const Firebase auth, it's an object I'm creating for our authentication. So get auth. We need to load our app. Our app is coming from our firebase.config. So I'm just typing app. So Firebase, sorry, your Visual Studio Code IntelliSense will help you. So this is the app which is loading from config, firebase.config. Let me import it. So that's loaded successfully. Okay, then what we need to do is, now we have the Firebase object, then we need to create a new instance for our Google Auth provider. So const provider, I'm just going to say provider is equals new Google Auth provider. It's a class, so we are creating an instance. Save the changes and leave some space to understanding it much better. Okay, inside this, what I'm going to say, when the user clicks this, we need to trigger that sign in button, sign in option, right? So that is going to be an asynchronous function. This function needs to wait until the pop-ups and the user triggered that pop-up and everything. It should wait, otherwise this function will execute instantly and it will finish its work. So we should not do that. So await until the sign in with pop-up is completely done. You should wait. So sign in with pop-up, I need to supply authentication and the provider information. So we having the Firebase auth over here, so supply Firebase auth, and we also having the provider information. Cool. So what happens is this will returns a response. So let's console log it, const response. So wherever it is possible, so do console log. So that will help you to understand what you're working with. So console.log response. Let me console log it, save the changes, and let me bring it down. Okay, so here, clear this. Currently in the console everything is empty. You can see it's a console. Good. And everything is empty so far. Let me expand it a little bit. And now what I'm going to do is, let me check whether everything is working fine or not. Login with Google. So everything is done. Now if I click this, it's opening the login. It's opening. Okay, Firebase is loaded, but actually we are getting an error. Auth configuration is not found. That's a quite new error. Everything we configured over here. We initialize the app. Everything is configured perfectly. What is the mistake we made is, actually I forgot to tell you, if you go to the authentication, Firebase authentication, so let me expand it a little bit. So here, where is it? Here, if you go to the authentication, we failed to set the sign-in method. How you want to set how the user wants to authenticate. We failed to enable this Google authentication provider. That's why we are getting that error. So what is the error we are getting? Firebase error on authentication configuration is not found. That means you didn't enable the sign in with pop-up method. That's you're trying to access it. So what we need to do, we need to go to Google, we need to enable it and select your Gmail account and click save. So this will, what happens, this creates an authentication client ID and the secret key for our Google authentication. If you go here, if you click this web SDK configuration, you can see this secret key and everything. Okay, so keep it safe. Now our authentication is enabled, and let me go back and let me bring it in the side-by-side view, expand it. Okay, so now clear it again, hit it. Still is missing. Why? I enable the Google authentication provider. Let me stop the server and rerun it. Rerun it. So it started, and let's open the console. Okay, so then what we need to do, it's opening up. Now you can see that it's opening and it's asking the user to sign in. Okay, so if I click this, and you can see that it's providing some information. As I told you, it's providing the user information. Inside the user information, you can see that it's having the token also, refresh token. This is the refresh token that Firebase will provide us. So what we need to do, we need to send this refresh token to our backend, and we need to validate that information. And in that, you can see that when the user is authenticated, when the user token will be expired, so we can use that for the session management for our user. Okay, so we are going to create the custom user endpoints to validate this refresh token. Okay, so now you can see here, still, even though we logged in successfully, it's showing this login button alone because we didn't change the authentication over here, right? We need to change the auth state. So that's what we are going to do next. So what you need to do is, let's go back here. Okay, so what I'm going to say is, I'm going to set this state in our local storage as a true or false alone. If the user is authenticated, set it as true. The user is not authenticated, set it as false. That's what we are going to do now. So what we need to do is, so initially while getting the state itself, when the user is, because user might close the window and he will come back again. Okay, so what we need to do is, if the user comes back again, or set it, or what we are trying to say here, what I'm trying to say is, I'm going to take the local storage information. So from the window, get the local storage dot get item, get that particular item. What is that item? It's going to be auth. If the user is authenticated, absolutely it will be true. So get this authentication information only if that information is true. So we are trying to get the window.localStorage.get authentication. So auth is equals to, if that is true, set it as true. If that is not true, then set it as false itself. Now if I refresh it, still it's showing because we don't have that authentication information. Okay, so instead of consoling.response over here, we know that now it's returning a promise, right? So here, now what we need to do is, we need to get that promise dot then. Okay, and here we know that it's giving the user credential, user cred. I'm opening an arrow6 function. Let me expand it a little bit so that you can see it clearly. Okay, an arrow6 function, and if there is an user credentials, okay, set the auth state as true. Set the auth state as true. Okay, if I save it, I click this, and you can see that now it's showing the to do option because our authentication state is changed and it's showing to do. If I refresh it, it's gone back. That's the issue we are facing. So now what we need to do is, I need to set this window.localStorage set. So we need to persist that information. So to do that, I'm going to say auth, because that's what we are trying to get it from our state information. Where is that state? Over here, because that is what we are trying to get. So actually this should be top over here. I'll keep it over here. Okay, so over here, auth, I'm going to set it as true. This should be inside here, true, as a string. Okay, save the changes. Cool. And here we are setting string, so this is also should be a string. Okay, and now you can see here it's changed successfully. Okay, because it set this value as true. You can verify, go to the application, and you can see that auth value is true over here in the local storage, browser local storage. You can see that auth value is true. Okay, now if I'm refreshing it, it doesn't matter, it always loads that to do only. Okay, so why? It's because the local storage value is set authenticated. Later we need to remove this. Okay, if that user token, we need to validate the user, because we can't say that every single time the Firebase the user is the refresh token is valid, because that refresh token is valid for only 1 hour only. Within 1 hour, that refresh token timing authentication time will change, so refresh token will become invalid. So we need to validate that refresh token every single time when the page gets refreshed. To do that, we are going to use the use effect hook. Use effect hook, and this use effect will take two parameters. One is your function itself, and another is your dependencies. Okay, so I'm just using this empty dependency because this, when the page gets refreshed, use effect will get rendered once the component everything is added inside your DOM. It's get rendered, and it should render only one time. That's why we are using this empty dependency inside this function. Okay, we are already having this Firebase authentication over here, so I'm going to verify that firebase.auth on state change. When authentication state changed, we need to get that user credential informations. We need to get that user credential information. Console.log user cred. You can see that still we're having that authentication and user informations over here. Okay, so we don't need the complete user information, we just need to get the token. So if there is user cred, we will get that. If there is not, what we are going to say? We are going to say set auth information as false, and as well as we need to set the information, local storage information, to false. Okay, because if the refresh token is invalid, it will not you don't have the user credential. If there is no user credentials, then you should do this: set the authentication as false, set the local storage as false. Cool. Now if there is user credential, what do you need to do? We need to get that token first. User credential dot, to get the token alone, we having a method called get token, get id token. So get id token. So this will returns the what you can say, this will returns the state, a promise. Then I will get that token. This is the parameter name. I will get that token, and if there is a token, then I need to set the window. Okay, we need to set the local storage auth as true. We need to set the local storage auth as true. Okay, otherwise we will set it as a false over here. And now I'm just going to console.log that token over here. What is the token we are having here? Save the changes, and you can see that this is our authentication token. So this token needs to be passed to our backend, and we need to validate that our validate in the user token over there. Then we need to return back the user information, and we will set that user information over here. So every single time when the page get refreshed, if there is an authentication, if there is any changes in that, it will get the user credential. If there is a user credential, we get that ID, and we will, from here, we will pass this token to our backend, our API. We will validate that, we will get back that user information, and we will store it in the state over here. We can use it over here. Okay, so this is what we are trying to do now. So now we are having the refresh token in our hand, and rest everything is in our backend. So to do that, now what you need to do is you need to go back and minimize this. We need to initialize our server. So let me close everything from here, close all, and let it run. Let's open the terminal. Let me split it, this, let it get run and expand it, and this is running fine. Close. So let me expand it here. So I need to move on to the server folder, cd server. Now we are inside the server folder, cls. Okay, here I'm going to initialize the package. So yarn init. If you're using npm, run npm init. So This will ask you what is the server name you're going to say. I'm just going to say what name you can give. Let's say Firebase token. Okay, version 1.0, description, validating JWT, Firebase JWT token, Firebase JWT token. Then entry point is going to be, what is the entry point you're going to set? Okay, in my case, I'm going to set it as app.js, and repository URL, no, author myself. Then license, yes, private, no, I didn't go, I'm not giving anything. So package.json now inside our server is created. Now you can see that license, author, app.js, everything is created now. So now what we need to do is let's open your package.json. So here now inside this package.json we having the very few limited informations only. So we need to add few informations, like we need to import, we need to install few packages. So let's install one by one packages now. Okay, so yarn add, if you're using npm install, absolutely, yarn add. So create an express server, we need express. Okay, and we are going to once the user logged in, we will validate it, and we need to store that user information somewhere. So we are not going to store the information in the Firebase Firestore. We are going to store the information in the Mongoose, that means MongoDB. Okay, so yarn add express. Then we need Firebase. Make sure that spelling everything is correct. Firebase hyphen admin. So Firebase admin. And then we have express Firebase admin. Then we need course, course. Then we need .env. So to create the environment variable, we need this .env. Okay, and we need Mongoose. We need this Mongoose package to write the MongoDB commands and everything. So Mongoose. Then nodemon. So this nodemon will help you to trigger our application. So install it. So let it install. So this will take a while, and I will join you back once it's completed successfully. Okay, then now you can see here my packages, everything is installed successfully. You can see that the course, .env, express, Firebase admin, Mongoose, and nodemon, everything is installed successfully. Now what we need to do is, let's go here to open it. Oh, come on, open it, expand it, and let me go to the MongoDB now. MongoDB, and open here and click sign in. Okay, initially if you're working first time in the MongoDB, use your Gmail account to log in. Okay, so if you are using MongoDB for first time, you need to do quite a few things in your MongoDB over here. You need to create a cluster, and you need to create a database user, and you need to get that application login and everything. Okay, so let me show you one by one. Okay, so here I'm just using my free cluster over here. So initially, if it's not available over here for you, you just need to create a new cluster. If you click this create cluster option, okay, so this is checking, it's loading. I'm not sure, today I'm having internet issue. Okay, so here you can see here what is the cluster you're going to use. You're going to use the Google or AWS or Azure, what is you're going to use, and you can choose your location where you want, and you can check up over here. So tier 1, what is the tier you want to use and everything, because in it you can choose the free tier, but I already create my free tier information. If I already created a free cluster. So this is a paid one. So per hour, $0.1 to $0.23 something over here. You can choose the tier and check out all the informations. For free tier, you don't need to check anything, just create the cluster. Okay, once the cluster is done, so let me cancel it. So this will take a time to get load, so you should wait until that it's getting loaded successfully. Okay, and for database access and everything, you need to go to your database access, and here I'm having my own username. So you just need to create a new username for your database. Okay, so click create the new database users, add a password for that, and you can start accessing your database. Once it's done, go to your database. Okay, click here this connect button, and connect with application. We are not going to use shell or compass software which is provided by MongoDB itself. We are going to use the node application. Connect it, node.js, and what is the version we are using, choose it, better keep it as it is, and then copy this. This is the string we needed. Okay, we are going to use this connection string in our app. Good. Okay, so now we set up everything. So in this database, I'm already having few collections. Come on, why it's not loading? Yeah, actually I'm having some network issues, I think so. It's taking time. Okay, so now it's loading. I'm already having few informations in the users informations you can see here. Okay, this is like I practiced it, so I'm already having this information. Cool. Now let's go back. Our MongoDB is done. Let's go back here. Okay, and let's open. We need to create a new file inside this MongoDB. Inside our server. Okay, and inside this server, first I'm going to create app.js. Okay, so app.js. Now inside this app.js, what we are going to have inside this app.js, first I need to create an app. So const express is equals require express. Okay, and then const app is equals express. We are creating an app. Cool. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to create the we need to check the a port to listen our app. Dot listen app dot listen. This should listen to the 4000 port. Okay, if it is start listening, just I'm calling a callback function to console.log it, whether it is listening or not. Console.log listening to port 4000. So if it start listening, this will be printed in our console.log. That's cool. And what we need to do is we need to configure a few changes in our package. Okay, so what I need to do is if I go to my package.log JSON over here, we don't have the scripts to run, right? We don't see any scripts to run. So above these dependencies, we need to create these scripts. Create these scripts. So the scripts will get created. Inside the scripts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create developer. If I'm running in the developer mode, then you should trigger nodemon run our file app.js. If I'm simply using the start command start, then okay, add comma then a previous line. If I'm using start command, then you should run node app.js. Okay, mostly in the development we are going to use the developer mode. That's why we install the nodemon app.js. Okay, nodemon, that's why we install the nodemon package. Okay, nodemon mon. So we configure the scripts and we having everything we needed, dependencies and everything we have over here. That's good. Okay, let's fire it up. CLS and let's say yarn developer deb. So that will triggers our nodemon app.js and it's working fine. And it started listening to our port. Cool. Let's go back here and let me write a route over here. So app.get. If it is a home route, then get the request and the response as a parameter to this function. Okay, so if everything is done, so what I'm going to say, actually here we need to add the comma. Okay, so response.send. Hi there, server is initialized. Cool. The server is get initialized now. Let's go back to our browser and localhost 3000 is running. Localhost 4000 we need to run. Okay, so let me change it to 4000 and look at that. Hi there, our server is initialized successfully. Okay, so every time I can't check the endpoints over here, so that's why I'm going to use the software called Postman. So this is a software really helpful when you're working with API endpoints. So go ahead and install the software and I already downloaded it, and it's running in my machine, and I open it over here. So I'm going to create a new project for this over here, and what I can say is create a new collection, and let's say Firebase token collection. So that collection is created. Inside here I'm going to add new request, and so now let me wait a second. So this, let me delete it. Later in this project we might add much more routes and everything, right? So I'm going to create a new folder inside here, new folder, and I'm going to rename this folder as user, because this is the user endpoints and everything. Inside this I'm going to add a request, and that request is going to be what request we can say as okay, home. And let's go back to the browser, create, and let's go back to our Postman, paste it, and that is the get. If I click send, you should get that hi there message over here. So it's up, it's executing fine now. So let me bring it side by side. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now we don't need every single time to go back to our page, to go back to the browser, and we can run it and verify it over here itself. Okay, so I'll create the request over here, and we will execute it over here. Cool. So now our working setup, everything is done. So next what we need to do is, let me close the terminal, and here now what we need to do is we need to create the routes for users separately. Okay, so we need to create a separate routes for users separately. So to do that, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new route called, new folder called routes. For routes I'm going to create a separate folder. Inside this folder, this is going to be user.js, because this is user route. Anything if it is coming from user endpoints, it should access this file. Okay, to set up that, what we need to do is I'm just going to say const router is equals require express. From the express we are going to use the router. Okay, this will create the router object. Okay, so router dot get, okay, through the user, if anything is coming through the user, like say slash login from the user endpoints, okay, slash login, if it anything is coming through that endpoint, slash login slash, and this is going to have request comma response, open it. Here I'm just going to send the response as response.send inside user router. Good. Okay, and then we need to export this router, otherwise it will throw an error. So module.exports is equals router, export it as a router. Okay, so then now what we need to do is go back to the app.js. Okay, this is our home router. Anything which comes over here, it will show this message. But anything if it is coming through user API slash user, if it is coming through that, then it goes to that user router. So this is for user authentications, user authentication. Okay, so what I'm going to say is const user route is equals require from the routes folder get the users route. Okay, then use it app.use slash API slash users slash, if anything is coming through, so slash user slash API slash user means if anything, any request is coming through this route, navigate that user to user route. Okay, so that will comes here, and then if I give slash login after it, it will print this route. Looks quite confusing, but you will understand right now, no issues. Okay, so here I'm just going to say I'll copy this route slash API. So let me remove this, and then login. Okay, so login is a get method. If I'm giving send, you can see that now we are inside the user router. So anything is coming through this endpoint, app.js will reroute that router to our user router. So that will goes to the user.js and it will check the next endpoint. What is that? /login. If that is a /login, this will be executed, and that's what's happening over here. Okay, cool. So now everything is working fine as we are expected. Now we need to validate the user token, right? So to validate that user token, what we need to do is we need to create a configuration folder here, config folder. Inside that config folder, what we are going to have, that Firebase config.js. Okay, so we need to get the admin credentials from our browser. So let's create the server over here. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to create the Firebase configuration file, and that's what we are going to do next. Okay, then so now let's go back to our browser first. Okay, go to your project, and where we need to go, come on, let me refresh it. Okay, so here let's go to our users and permission settings. Go there. Okay, and here you can see the service accounts. Click the service accounts. Okay, inside the service account, this is our Firebase admin. We need to use this credential keys, service account key. We need to use it in our server API, backend server. Okay, so just choose our project, that is going to be Node.js, and let's generate a new private key. Generate it. So that will gives you the key for that Firebase admin. So let's go back here, and inside here now what we need to do is let's create a new folder called config. Inside this config folder, I'm just going to create a new file called firebase.config.js. Okay, and let me bring this token. Okay, so wait a second. We need to keep this token inside our config file. So let me bring this token inside our config folder and rename this token as service account key. Right click, rename, change it, service account key. So this is your account key and private key, every information is over here. So we need to protect this information. So make sure in the git ignore, we need to create a git ignore file, and you need to ignore this file when you're uploading it. Okay, so that will do later. So now we're having the Firebase key, and let me copy this code and paste it over here. Okay, so I will change this var command to const. Okay, so we already installed this package Firebase admin, and this is coming from here. It's coming from /service account key.json. Okay, and then admin will initialize the app. We'll get the credentials with our service account, and we need to export this module.export equals admin. We are exporting it as an admin. Cool. So now it will get exported, and then what we need to do is we need to get the token and we need to validate that information. Okay, so let's go back to our app.js. Okay, so to use the later I told you, right, we need to use the environment variables, right? To use the environment variables, we need to add one package, require .env/config. So this will add that env environment files and everything. This will manage all those things so that it's done. Okay, so when you're trying to access it, it will throws the cross origin error. When you're trying to access the API keys and everything, when you're trying to access the API key from the front end to back end, it will throws the cross origin error. To avoid that, only we use the course. Okay, so that I will show you later. Okay, I'll show you later how to handle it and everything. So now let's go back to the Mongoose connection. We need to connect our MongoDB database. Okay, so right after here, I told you we imported installed one package called Mongoose, right? So we'll use that Mongoose. So that will import the Mongoose database like this. Default Mongoose, required Mongoose. Cool. It's imported. We are going to connect it. Connect. Okay. Here I need to pass that string, right? I need to pass that string. So instead of passing that string over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an environment variable. So right click, in the right click your server, new file .env. Inside this, I'm going to say, what I'm going to say is I'm going to create a database string. db string is equals, let's go to our MongoDB and let's go to the database, connect your application, copy this string and then paste it here, say the changes, and here in this password place type your own password. I'm just giving my password right now, admin. This is not a suitable way to keep a password securely, but for the tutorial I'm just giving as an admin. You should use a strong password. I'll suggest to use a strong password. Okay, so close this. Environment variable is done. And here now what we are going to do is we are going to say we need to get that connection string. So process dot env dot db string. So this not shows suggestion, so go back to your env file, copy this and then paste it over here, db string. If you got the db string, this will return a callback function. Inside this callback function, I'm just going to say console.log mongoose connected. So let's stop our server and rerun it because we added our environment file over there. So now you can see that it's up and running. Cool. Close it. Save these changes and let's make sure whether the MongoDB, yes, now we can see that we having the statement like mongoose is connected. So this will make sure our MongoDB is successfully connected. That means our environment variable is working fine. So we are successfully integrated our MongoDB with our application. Cool. So next what we need to do, we need to validate our user token, which is going to be interesting, and that's what we are going to do next. Okay then, so now what we need to do is let's go back to your user.js over here, and I need to import that admin privileges from our Firebase config.js. So let me import it. Const admin is equals, okay, require, or let it import when we needed it. Currently right now it's not needed. And this /login, instead of get method, we are going to use it as post method. Because if the user token is validated successfully, we need to save the user information to the what is that? We need to save that user information to our MongoDB. Okay, so I'm just changing that method to post method. Then what I need to do is this, we need to change it absolutely to asynchronous method. Okay, good. Remove this response status right now. So this is going to be the post, and we are login. Anything is coming to here. It should be, yeah. So how we are going to send that token information? We will send that token information through the header. If not, so what we are going to say is, I'm just going to say response dot send the response. What I'm going to send, request dot headers. I'm going to say request dot headers dot authorization. Okay, so from through the headers, I will send the authorization header. I will show you how to send it. Okay, and I'm just sending it back over here, response, whether everything is coming perfectly or not. So how to set the headers? If you go to the headers, change this method to post and go to the headers over here, and inside this header, what is the key we are going to say? Wait a second, I forget. Like, let me check 1 second. Where it is? Over here, user validate, headers, yeah, authorization, yeah, it's confused. Okay, so we need to, okay, so I need to send the authorization over here, and what is the value? So when you click the login, we have the token, right? When you click login, we have that information. What is that information? Where it is? Where is our browser? Go to the browser, and here we having this refresh token. Refresh it, and we are getting that refresh token. We need this refresh token, so copy it, and let's go back to our Postman app. So inside here now, what we need to do is inside this Postman app here, I need to pass this bearer, bearer, bearer token. Okay, we need to send the term bearer, bearer, along with our token, space, and then our token. Okay, save it, and now if you send it, it should return the response.send. We got nothing. Why? Why? Post method router.send, everything is working fine, but we are not getting anything in our. Am I making any mistakes? I'm not sure. Did I made any mistakes till now? I didn't. Okay, so instead of this, we'll console log it. Console.log request dot headers dot authorization. Save the changes and hit the send button. It's sending now. Let's go to the JS. It's showing undefined. We are getting undefined issue. Oh, enable this. Oh god, my bad. I just forgot to enable this. My bad. You should enable that tick. That's why it's showing that issue. Okay, so now if I click send and body, and look at that, we're having the bearer and we're having this token and everything. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to break this token information. We need to break this information. It's coming as toString. We need to break, we need to split it, and we need to extract this token. Okay, so that's what we are going to do next. Cool. And over here, instead of sending this as a response, if there is not request dot headers dot authorization, if there is no authorization header, then simply return the responses response dot status like 500 as an internal issue. Send the message to the user. Send the message object. We are creating a message object as an invalid token, or token is not there, something like that. You can give a message. So I'm just sending as an invalid token. If there is no token, that is not authorization, it will send the response as message invalid token. If there is the token, then what we need to do? Okay, that's we need to write it over here. So I need to, if there is a token, I need to get the token separately. So from the request dot headers dot authorization, okay, we are going to split it. We are going to split that string into how we are going to split. I'm going to use the empty space because there is a space between this bearer and this token value. So I'm just going to use that space, empty space, and once it's splitted, the 0th index will be bearer and the first index will be our API token, this token. So I'm just going to get that token. Cool. If there is a token, then response dot send that token alone. Save the changes, and now if I hide this, I'm sending it invalid token. If there is a token, if I'm sending it, we will get that token alone. Look at that. Good. So it's working fine now. Then what we need to do is I need to validate this token now. That's a very important part. So use the try and catch. Whenever maximum, try to use the try and catch. Okay, when I'm just trying to decode this token, okay, I'm just going to try to decode this token, and if while doing that, if there is any error is happening, I'm just going to send a return status as, instead of sending it like this, I'm just going to say success is false, false. And then what is the message? I'm going to send the message as error, what we got in the cache. Cool. Otherwise, try to do something. We need to get the decode value. So const, we need to decode that token and we need to get that decode value. So const decode value, how we are going to decode it? We need to get the admin privileges from our Firebase config.js. Inside this config, we having this admin. So we need to use that admin privileges. So wait until I'm decoding this. So admin is not coming. So what we need to do, we need to import it manually. So this is why I was trying to import it at very first. It's const admin is equals require from where double dot slash config slash firebase config.js. Cool. So for admin, we're having the admin dot auth. That's a method which comes along with your Firebase config. Auth, it's a method. Inside this method, we're having the verify ID token. Verify ID token. So we need to supply the token which we extracted and we are having in our hand. So we will verify this token and then we will send this information. Let's say for the time being, I'm just sending response.send back the decode value. Okay, now if I send this, sending, look at that, the token is being verified and we are getting that token informations completely over here. What is the username, what is the picture, what is the authentication ID, authenticated time, and the expiration time. When this is the auth time, that the user logged in time, and the user expire time, when it's going to be expired. Okay, so if you send this information to a date string, you can get that information. And email account, whether the email is verified or not, where it's coming from, all the informations you get. Then this is the user ID. Cool, right? By using this token, we are extracting this information. So now we need to save this information into our MongoDB. That's what we are going to do. Okay, so instead of sending it back, what I'm trying to do is, if there is no decode value, return the response as status. Okay, 500 JSON. You can say JSON, return the status as JSON. What we can say, success failed, success false, comma, and you can say you can send a message to the front end, message as unauthorized user, something like that message. We are sending that message to the front end. If there is a decode value, else, what to do? That's what we need to do. Either write it in an else block or you can simply leave it as it is. Okay, so here we are checking this will execute only if there is no decode value. Okay, good. Then what we need to do is we need to verify. So if there is a user token, what we need to do, we need to save the user in the MongoDB. But the problem is, every time when the user clicks that login button, it will create a new user. So if the user is already in our MongoDB, we need to update that user, right? Only if the user is not in our MongoDB, we need to create a new user over there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to delete my user in my MongoDB collection because my email ID is already there. My user ID is already there. So in the users table, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to delete this user. Just like you don't have a user table at all and you don't have anything here. So let me delete this user collections also. Drop it. Okay, so currently we don't have user collections, nothing. Okay, to do that, now what we need to do, let me go back here, and here I need the user schema. right? Because we need to create a schema. Then only you can store the, you can create a collection in your MongoDB and you can store the information. So to do that, we need to create the user schema. So that's what we are going to do next. Okay, then. So now open your browser, go here, and let's create a new folder over there. What is the folder we need to create is right click, new folder, and name it as model. Okay, or models. Inside this models only, you are going to have that all the models like the users or anything if you are going to create. So in this case, we are going to create a new collection for user. So users.js. Okay, inside this, I'm going to create const mongoose. Come on, mongoose is equals require mongoose. Okay, then const user schema. We are going to create a schema. Schema is nothing but your database structure. So we are going to create by using mongoose schema. Okay, mongoose schema. Inside everything is an object. Okay, I can simply create the name and what we can create. Name is going to be string, something like that. I can simply create like this, but something is required, something might not be required, something we need to create by default value, like name is a required value for the user, email is a required, so I need to give the required. That means that's not supposed to be a null, not supposed to be an empty value. And the same way when the user is created at, so that means that that created at should be by defaultly the time string needs to be inserted automatically without sending any value, right? So to do that, better way is to create every single column as an object. Name, the type, data type is going to be string, S capital, then it's required, it's going to be true. You might be wonder what are these informations. These are the informations you can check in the MongoDB documentation. Okay, just go through their documentation. Email is going to be, I'm just going to copy this email. I'm just going to say string only because I can validate the email and everything in the front end, so I don't need to worry about it. Okay, then I'm going to send image URL. That means user image URL. Okay, type, that's also going to be string and it should be important. And the most important, that's the user ID. That's the UID of the user ID. It's going to be type, that's also going to be string, and the status of the email verified or not, so email underscore verified colon, that's also going to be string, that's also required. And this email is verified is going not a string, it's going to be a boolean, so search for boolean. Okay, boolean. And then authentication, so we need the auth time, because we need to, if the user is already there, we need to insert if the user is not there in our collection, we need to create the new user. If the user is already there, we just need to update the authentication time so the session can be managed and the user can be logged in our website. So to do that, what I'm going to say is, so auth time, I'm just going to say auth underscore time, the same name just like over here. Copy it, paste it, auth time, and that is also going to be string. Okay, so these are the important thing we needed. And then so I told you when the user created, when the user gets updated, so that's information you don't need to create it over here. All you have to you need to send the timestamp. So comma, another object called time, TIME stamps, timestamps, spelling mistake is over there, so timestamps colon true. So if you set this information, this will make sure that the created and updated and all the information that MongoDB will insert it by itself, so you don't need to do anything. So let's make sure. So we created an object, okay, two object. In first object structure is going to be for your table column, and the second one is going to be the timestamps. So all the timestamps will be automatically enabled so that MongoDB will do it for us. Inside this column we have name, email, image URL, user ID, email verified, and the authentication time. Later, even if you want to add much more information, just add that schema information over here. Now I need to export the schema. So module dot exports equals mongoose dot model. This is the model. So what's the model name? It's going to be users. Okay, and it's going to use this users is not your file name. This is our collection name, which is going to be in your MongoDB. Okay, then I'm just going to send this user schema here. Using this schema, create a new schema. Cool. So now what we need to do is you need to go back to your users.js right after here. So I need to check the user is already exist or not. So here we are just checking the user already exists or not. We are going to check that. So what I'm going to say, const user exists user exists equals, I'm going to check await. I need to get the user information from the schema, right? From the schema which we created. So users, which is coming from models.users. So that will import it over here. Users equal request model.user. Okay, user dot. So it provides a bunch of method. In that method, we are going to use the find one. Okay, find one. This method will help us to find the user information. So how I'm going to find that information? Let's go back here and let me go to find one MongoDB. Let's go to the documentation db.collection.find one. So Maximum use their documentation. It's having a nice documentation over here. Okay, find one. You just need to send your field. What is the field how you're going to find it? Okay, so I'm going to verify the user by using the UID because this is the unique ID. So using this, I'm going to validate the user information. From the token, we are having this UID, and I will save this user ID in our schema. So how we are saving the user ID in our schema? In the user schema, we having the user ID, right? While creating a new user, we will use that user ID only. Okay. So I will copy this. If there is a user in our database, he will definitely have this user ID. If that user ID, which is equals to this particular user ID, okay, where is the here the same UID or user ID, both are same only. Okay, I'll get this user ID. If that decode value dot user ID. So inside, so it will try to find out the information. It will get every single user information, and it will check this user ID. If that user ID is equals to this token user ID information, if both are same, get that user information. Then I will have that user information over here. So let me send the user information. What is that object it's showing? Response.send user exist. I'm sending that object. Now go here. If I'm sending it, it's returning nothing, right? Because there is no user exists so far. Okay. So what we need to do is, if I need to check if not user exists, if there is no user, we need to create a new user. Send response.send. Let's say create new user. If there is a user, we're just going to say update that user. Let's see what we have got. Click it. So we need to create a new user because there is no user in our MongoDB. So it's working fine. So what I'm going to do is, that is going to be a very big function. So I'm just going to create a two separate function to create a new user. So right above here, I'm going to say const new user data. New user data is equals, it's going to be an asynchronous method. This method is going to take different parameters. The first one is going to be your decode value, okay, then the request and the response equals open an arrow 6 function. Okay, so I will call that function right over here, new user data. I will call that function over here, new user data, and while calling that function, I'm just going to say that decode value. I'll pass the decode value, I'll pass the request, and I'll pass the response exactly as it is how we are getting over here. Okay, save the changes, and inside here now we have a job to do. What I need to do is I need to create a new user first. Const new user is equals new that users model which we are already having in our hand, users, and we need to send all the objects one by one. What is the informations we need? We need their name, email, image, URL, everything. Okay, so let's get one by one information. So let me copy it completely from here, copy it, and then I'll paste it here, and then I will clean it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it, delete it. Okay, and then I will add comma at every single end, so it will throws here. I'm just going to say decode value, just a decode value, decode value. Then we will get one by one information from the decode value. That means coming from here, we need to have the token information, right? Where is that? We need to send the, so here I'll just send a response back, response.send that decode value, because we need to have that information now. So click the decode value. Okay, so here we are having all the informations. So let's go back here. So we need to get the name. So decode value dot name, and email. We need the email. Copy the email. Decode value dot email. We need the image URL. That is our picture. Copy this picture. Decode value dot picture, and we need the user ID. This is the user ID, and then paste it here. And we need the email verified status. So copy this email verified. Then authentication time. We having the auth time over here. Copy this dot auth time. So we have all the required informations in our file. Then we need to save this information. So I'm going to use the try and catch. Okay, and if there is any error, I'm just going to send that error message back. So response.status 400, send success as false, send this message with that error. Okay, then I'm going to try const save the user. Okay, so I'm going to say await new user dot save. What is that? New user dot save method. Okay, why I'm saying is because this will create this new user, and this will have that all the instance in that instance we're having the save method. Using that method, I'm going to save it, and that will returns a promise back, whether the user is saved or not, that promise. Okay, and then I'm going to return that information back. Okay, what I'm going to say is response, if the user is saved successfully, response.status as 200, then send that information user colon saved user, send the responses saved user, save it, and let's go back here. Instead of sending the response here, I don't need it. If the user is not exist, this will call this method. It will comes here, it will all decode all the information and keep it in their necessary values, and we are saving that value and we are returning that saved user. Let's go back to our Postman, click it, and we are getting an error. Okay, so it's throwing an error where, oops, I try to keep an authentication value as a boolean that is supposed to be a string, That's why it's showing an error. I thought the authentication token is failed. Here it's showing that clear mistake. Cast to boolean value failed because we are passing a string value and we are trying to set it as a boolean value because I object is as a string over here. Cool. Now send it again and look at that. It's returning the users. It saved that information: name, email, image, URL, user ID, email verified, authentication time when the user authentication, and the ID. And this ID is nothing but MongoDB will create a unique ID by itself. Okay, no problem. And it created that and updated it. This is the timestamps I'm talking about. This is done by your MongoDB itself. Let's go back to the MongoDB and let's go back to your database collections. User collection is created and our user information is saved over there. Look at that. Cool, right? So now if there is a new user, now if I click again the postman, the user trying to log in again, click it and see it's showing success false and it's showing message auth ID token expired, Firebase token has been expired. Why it's showing the token has been expired? Is it expired really? I don't know. So let's go back to our front end. Let's re-log in again. Yeah, it's already expired. It's giving a new token now. So copy this token now. Copy it. Go back here and then paste it here. Okay, now this is a new token. This will not give the token again, this issue again. If you send it now, it's showing update that user. Okay, because why? Because our logic is written in that way. If there is a user exists, now this time the user is already exists. That's why it's going to here. That is if that is not user, if there is no user only, it will create a new user. If the user is already exists there, it will return this message. That's why when I'm sending a request API end, it's showing update that user. So this time we need to create a one more method called update user. Let's go back here and right after here I'm going to create a one more method called update user data is equals asynchronous method decode value comma request comma response. Okay, and then we need to call this method just like your new user data. I'll copy and paste it and then replace this as update user data. So we will send the decode value, request and response and everything. We will get that here. So first I need to find out whether that user information. Okay, we need to get that user information, right? We need to update. We are going to update that information. So for that, what we are going to do is MongoDB provides a method called find and update. Find one and update method. Okay, what is showing? Find one update. It's showing. Oh, it's coming. Find one update. This is one. Okay, so where it is? Find one, modify all. This is not that method. Okay, let me search it somewhere here. Find one and update MongoDB Node.js. This is that method. Find one and update. Okay, so you need to supply the filter information and you need to supply the query what you're going to update. Okay, so that's the information. You can find the examples, some examples also over here. Where is that examples? Find one. No, they didn't give any examples. Actually, I seen an example. Oh god, where it is? Okay, I will help you with that. No issues. It's here it is the example. See, here it is. Okay, I was searching for that. So this is the filter that they are applying and this is the update they want to update in their data. Okay, so let's go here. Okay, So you can see here how they are sorting the information and how they are updating. You can find there are different examples over here. So just go through these examples. So let's create. So first I need to find out which user I'm going to update. So const filter equals, it's an object. Okay, so inside that we having the user ID. I'm going to fetch it by using the user ID only. Copy this user ID, fetch the user ID from by using our decode value dot user ID. Inside that we having this user ID information, because that's what we are sending, user ID, same user ID. Okay, so this will filter it. Then options, you need to send the options also. So I'm going to set upsert as true, upsert true, and new is equal to true. So what is this actually doing is, if that ID is not there, this will create the new information with that decode information. So that's what it's basically doing. If that is there, update it. If that is not, then create it. Basically we know that it's already there, so no, anyway, it's just a double verification, that's it. So try and catch. If while doing this, if there is any error, just send it back the message with that error. What kind of error it is, send that error message. Otherwise just start doing it. Result, we will get the result back. So await users is the model, users model dot find one, and you can see here find one and find one, delete, find one, remove, find one, replace, find one, update. There are different options, so I'm just going to use find one and update. Okay, find one and update. So it's asking filters first, update query second, and then callback function. Okay, so we are going to supply the filter which we are already having in our hand. That's the filter object. Okay, filter, and what is the information you need to update? I need to update the authentication time when the user authenticated. Okay, if the user is already there, just change their authentication time again, because user logged in first and come back after 30 minutes. So we need to just update the authentication time. So get that decode value. In that decode value, we have this auth time. Update that auth time. Okay, and then I'm just sending the options. Okay, so as it is, this will returns a promise only, so we are getting that promise over here. If you want to use a callback function, you can write after here itself, but I'm getting that promise and I'm going to return that promise to our response. Okay, so I'm just sending that response. I'm going to return that response. Okay, cool. Now let's click send and look at that. It's just updated the user authentication time string and it's returned back. So it's showing here 546, right? If I'm sending it back, still it's showing 546. Okay, instead of here decode, where it is, instead of this auth timing, okay, I'll change this to, let's do make sure whether it's updating or not. So click it, and you can see that the auth time is updated as high there. Apart from every information, auth timing is alone, it's getting updated, right? So it's working fine. Cool. Let's change it back because that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so now our authentication information is updated. So this will make sure that every single time, if the user is already there, it will not create the new user. If that user is not there only, it will create the new user. If the user is already there, it's simply update the authentication time. Cool. So we are done successfully. Now what we need to do is, our backend is ready now, user validations and everything is ready. Now how you are going to approach it in the front end, and that's what we are going to do next. Okay then, so now let me close all these things over here. Let me close everything, close all, because we know it's up and running perfectly. And let me go back to my client back. Okay, so now what we need to do is, let's go back to our client. Inside the client, we have already created the API folder, right? Inside this API folder, I'm going to create a new folder called index.js. Okay, inside this index.js, I'm going to import the Axios package. Import Axios from Axios. Okay, so we are going to use the Axios to call the endpoints. Okay, so const base URL. We need to set the base URL. So we know that the base URL is going to be this localhost 4000, and later we will update this base URL to our domain URL, right? So I'm just giving this localhost URL over here for the time being, and I'm going to export const method called validate user is equals asynchronous method, and I will send the method with the token we needed output. So this API over here, it's needed authorization header along with bearer and with our token. Okay, so that's how we need to send it. So const, and we will get the response back. So response, so await axios dot, what is the method we are using here? Post method. So axios dot post, then I'm going to use the template string, or you can say dynamic string. So open it. I'm going to pass the base URL, which is here. After this base URL, I'm going to send the API slash, better copy it, users slash login. Okay, so now it will be localhost 4000 slash API slash user slash login. Good. Then I'm going to pass an object that is going to be our data. Inside the data object, we are going to send the headers. So we are going to send the headers. Okay, this is the headers object, no capital letter, headers colon. What is the header we are sending? We are sending the authorization. Copy it and paste it here. Authorization colon, that is going to be the bearer token, right? Copy this bearer inside the string and make sure that is having an empty string over here, an empty space. So plus we are joining the token along with that. Okay, we are sending that information, and then finally we just need to return the response. That we will get the response. I think we'll get the response dot data. I think so. Yeah, response dot data. We'll send that response dot data back. Okay. Cool. Okay, so now where we need to use this function is, I need to call this function. Let me go back to my app.js. Inside the app.js, if there is a user, here we are getting that token, right? This is the place we are getting that token. So in this place only, I need to call that function. All I just need to do, so validate user from the API, that will call that API. Okay, validate that user. We are sending that token which we are having in our hand, token. If there is a token, then it will returns a promise, get that data, and then simply console.log that data for the time being. Okay, let me save it and let me go back to my browser now. Okay, so if I am refreshing it, we will get the error. See, XHTML request from the origin, it's showing cross origin, it's blocked by the course policy. So that's why we need to use the course. That's why we imported the package in our server. So let's go to the server app. Here, right after here, you need to make sure that you are using the course. Okay, we need to create an object for course. So right over here, let me see. Okay, I'll keep this up, keep the app separately. Okay, so then const course equals require course. Cool. Okay, then what we need, I need to make sure a middleware, this should use this course package. So app dot use course, call that course, and then make sure that origin is true. Okay, if you set this true, now it will doesn't throw any error. And even in future you will work with JSON also, so make sure you use one more middleware called express.use express.json. So it works like a body parser. Okay, so we are instructing use the express as a JSON data. Okay, that's fine. Now the server is up and running. It should up and running fine. Let me close these issues and let me refresh it now. We are getting Okay, we are getting this, and we are getting create error request failed with the status 500. What is the issue we are getting? Go to the console. There is no issues over here. Internal server error. We are getting internal server error. Why? If I am sending this here, it's working fine, no issues over there. Then that means the issues in our front end only. In the API slash login, we are waiting over here. Bearer token. Export const to validate. Okay, localhost, everything. There is no mistakes over here. Validate user. Now it's getting quite complicated. Ah, God, come on. Think. What is the mistake we are making? Okay, so user credential, it's getting refreshed. We are getting the setting the local storage fonts local token. We are getting the local token and validate user. This is, yeah, promise. Validate user is coming from API only. Okay, it's coming from API only. Cool. There is no mistakes in that. And we are sending the token. Let me confirm it whether this token is, let me console.log it over here, console.log token, and I will hide this console log here, otherwise it will print 2 times, it will confuse us. Let me go back to the browser, refresh it. That function is get called and it's having the token. What is the token value here? We are having QRYA, last one, QRYA. So fine, there is no changes in the token, but still we are getting the 500 internal server error. Let's go back to the server app.js. Go to the user routes. We are trying to log in the post method. Header authorization. Let me console.log it, console.log. Change it. If I am, let me keep it side by side. Okay, so if I'm refreshing here, we are getting error over here. That means issue is here. Through the headers, we are not getting the authorization. So we are not getting the authorization. That's the issue. Let's go back to the index.js headers. We are not getting this. This is where the mistake is happening. Come on. Why it's not happening? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll do something. We'll change this to get method, and we will change over here also as a get method. If I refresh it, now look at that, we are getting the value. Okay, so method is wrong, I think so. I made a mistake maybe in the method. So it's working. Actually, we need to figure it out why that issue is coming. So let's see. passing headers in Axios post method. Maybe we are making mistakes in Axios post method only. Passing headers with Axios post request. How to pass the headers? Maybe we are passing the headers in the wrong way. That's why it's showing an issue. Okay, we pass the. Okay, so this is how we need to pass it. So Stack Overflow, which really helps you in a lot in a different way. Okay, so let me change this one more time to post method, and we will verify it, because its get method is just to get a value, not to update or change a value. So let me change this to get method, and here post, and this is just that URL, right? URL and the headers, and this is going to be string. Fine, it's fine. We are getting error. JSON actually. Okay, so it's working fine. So let's just leave it as it is. I will figure it out why it's not working in the post method. So here, let me change this to get method itself, and let me go back here, and I will change this to get method. Save the changes and save the changes here, and let's refresh it, and we are getting the user's information back. So that is literally good. So we are getting our user information. So all you have to do is, instead of console logging it, let me delete this console dot statement, we don't need it. And instead of console dot logging it, what you need to do is, where is that app? Here you need to set this to a state, user state. So create one more state over here, and then set this value to your user state. So let's do that now. So what we need to do is, here user state, use state snippet is equals user set user. Initially it's going to be null, and then here I am going to set that user, set user, it's going to be the data. Okay, then here I'm going to say set user as null. Cool. If that is an auth, then I'm just going to say user question mark. I'm going to say the user information, user question mark dot name of that user. Okay, and let me wrap this into the React fragments. Okay, then image. Here inside this image, I'm just going to say user question mark dot image URL. Save changes and refresh it. It's not doing anything. Why? It's supposed to print that value over here. We are getting that user, set user. Let me create one more use effect method to monitor that user. We are not getting any errors or anything else. Empty the cache and clear it. There is no issues, but it's not printing anything. Why? It is supposed to print that value. Wait a second. Let me console log it. What we are getting in the user console.log. So wherever it's possible, console log it. Then only you can understand. Okay, we are getting the user object in it. Okay, that's the problem. So while saving itself, data.user, because we are getting user object, inside that only we are having this information. So now you should get the name and the picture. My bad, my mistake. Cool. So where it is, remove this console.log and need these use effect informations. Okay, so now whenever the user refresh, that will loads the that information. Okay, so you just need to, if you want to persist this information, you need to save it in your context provider and you can use it wherever you want. So this is all about the this tutorial. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.